Hello everybody, welcome to today's live stream. My name is John. I'll be taking you through the charts as usual, going over some charts of interest, going over some of the data that we've had already this week, and just some potential markets to just stay ahead of. Can see a comment in here already. Obina, welcome. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for waiting and coming in early. I appreciate that. Hopefully you've had a good week so far. Yeah, we're going to do the usual. We're going to take a look at some of the data. Like I said, we're going to take a look at the strength meter. Where's that kind of pushing us into this week? And we'll go from there really. And then we'll go check out some charts of interest. Haven't taken a position in the market again just yet. I'm just kind of waiting to see how things develop. I can see a lot of our major currency pairs coming into an area of support or either resistance. So I'm kind of waiting. Big level for me is the dollar index here at 104.50. So I'm kind of waiting to see how the market reacts to this area as we go into this US Open. Do we see price kind of breach the 104.50? We're obviously seeing bond yields rally, which is usually a good sign for the US dollar. Obviously, we had the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell speaking over the weekend on 60 Minutes, basically saying that he's in no rush to cut interest rates, which is something we've spoken about a number of times on the channel. So are we actually going to see a little bit of an uplift in the US dollar? We obviously had a little bit of a miss on some data as well. If I just go over to the data here, we actually had, let me just grab a different colored pen here. You can see the ISM services PMI data in the US actually came in slightly better, above that 52 forecast and above the previous of 50.6. So obviously we're starting to see some good data in the US continuing, and if we do see a little bit more positive data, is that going to obviously keep the Federal Reserve from cutting interest rates, which is kind of the topic in the news at this moment in time. So who else have we got in? Irfan, thank you for being in today. Vincent, good afternoon. I'm doing really well, thank you. Hope you are doing well. And we've got Akintunde as well. Good day to you, sir. So yeah, we've got some interesting data obviously coming up for the rest of the week. We obviously had some important data overnight as well. We had the RBA cash rate decision, which was held at 4.35%. as expected. But obviously we've got some important data coming up as well this week. We've got some employment data out of New Zealand and also in the US and also Canada as well. So I'm actually looking at a little bit of opportunities potentially on the Canadian dollar at the moment. So we will go take a look at that as well. But yeah, interesting data I think already, with Fed Chairman Powell kind of coming out and talking about the not really seeing any kind of opportunity to cut rates just yet, and with the ISM services PMI data coming in above expectations, I think that's going to put a little bit of a pressure on the markets. You know, is that going to put a bit of pressure on the stock markets? Maybe are we going to see a little bit of a retraction to those markets that have been making those new highs, for instance? I still feel like there's some upside in the stock markets, so we will go take a look at that a little bit later in the stream. But let's just go take a look at some markets, and then we'll go have a little look as well at the currency strength meter. I think I'll actually bring that up first just to kind of give us something to kind of go off of. Let me just try and find it here. I should leave this open before I actually open my stream, but here we go. Currency strength meter for this week, and it's showing some really interesting opportunities in the market. So first of all, we've got the Canadian dollar here. The Canadian dollar is the strongest currency at this moment in time, but it's in a reversal zone. So remember, anything kind of above +5 here is telling me that that currency is strong. It could potentially reverse. So looking at opportunities on CAD pairs to either see CAD strengthen, or is that strength going to turn into weakness? That's what I'm essentially looking for when I'm looking at the Canadian dollar. The Swiss franc is interesting to me because we're starting to see that sort of potential reversal in the Swiss francs. We've actually got quite a few pairs to look at, so I'm looking for the sort of potential downside or weakness in the Swiss franc. And we've been talking about getting long dollar Swiss for a while, and I actually got long last week on NFP. We rallied, took profits on that. Kind of wish I'd left the position in, to be honest, because dollar Swiss is continuing to move to the upside. But I'll point out a couple of other support and resistance levels that I'm pretty interested in at the moment. The US dollar, obviously, red line in here, very, very strong currency at the moment, rallying to the upside here. I'm looking at whether that will continue. Like I said earlier in the stream when we began, dollar index coming into that key level of resistance is something that I'm just watching, because although that I expect the dollar strength to continue, the technicals then have to line up with it. I'm not going to go long when price is at resistance, for instance, because that's not what I'm there to kind of look at. I'm looking at, is price going to kind of retrace so that I can get a better entry into the market? So just because the strength meter is telling me that that's a strong currency and I should be looking for it, doesn't necessarily mean that I want to get involved with it. So US dollar is a strong currency. You want to be a potential buyer of that. Japanese yen has started to show that sign of reversal. I mean, it did have a little bit of a mixed week last week, so yen is a little bit tentative for me, but the strength meter is saying let's have a look at potential yen longs, and the Australian dollar, one of the weaker currencies at the moment, not really showing signs of reversal yet. So I will just say potential short, or look for that potential reversal, very similar to the lines of what the Canadian dollar is on for me at this current moment. So let's think about currency pairs. What kind of currency pairs can we focus on going into this week? Well, obviously, these are the sort of pairs that I'm looking at, is sort of US dollar, Swiss is definitely on my list for potential long ideas. And you can see the Japanese yen as well is another one of those. So we could potentially go and take a look at Swiss yen short. I actually don't know where Swiss yen is positioned at the moment. I know that it was in a bit of a range, but I haven't actually taken any kind of look at Swiss yen over the weekend. So we can go take a look at that one together. And then obviously you've got the sort of reversal patterns in play. So we could potentially be looking for sort of dollar CAD long maybe, or potentially CAD yen short. But those ones are just kind of on the fringes for me for now. Same with Aussie US dollar, Aussie dollar short, or Aussie yen short as well. But I'm just kind of keeping an eye on those particular markets, not really kind of dove into anything on them just yet. So really speaking, for me, dollar Swiss yen, I think are really good markets to potentially go and look at. So let's dive straight in. As always, guys, if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to put them in the comment box. If you have any kind of charts that I won't potentially cover today, maybe you're looking at a different currency pair, throw that in there as well. We can go take a look at those happily. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about here on the US dollar index. I'm just going to zoom in. So we've spoke about price kind of coming into this area for a good while now, this 104 spot 50. And I think this is a pretty crucial level for the US dollar index. I think if we get above this area here, now we have to remember the dollar index is just a basket of currencies against the US dollar. So if we see the likes of euro dollar breaking down and things like that, then dollar index should trade above 104 spot 50. We are at resistance though, so what comes with the resistance a lot of the times is either some taking profits from long positions, or obviously a reversal situation. So I think for me, I want to see how price reacts in this level, because we could see a short-term pullback, let's say, into sort of previous structure points like the 103 spot 50. However, if we kind of just consolidate in here and just kind of move sideways for a few days, I would maybe be looking more on the side of price could break 104.50 and then move up to the next potential level of resistance, that potentially being up here at the sort of 106 handle. Okay, so that is something I would think about if we were to get a kind of opportunity for price to actually break out of the 104.50 handle, because obviously those are the highs, the next sort of highs that could be targeted by buyers. We've obviously had a lot of volume up here in the past, and price kind of breached that volume, tested it, rejected it. So that could be a good place for price to go and sort of retest, is up at this area. And just to kind of see the flip side of that, you've got euro dollar obviously coming into those lows in line with the US dollar index at that 104.50 resistance. And we can see obviously price has rallied, consolidated, rallied. So we know from the analysis that we do on a week by week basis, there's a lot of volume down towards this area here, and specifically around about this sort of 107 area is a level of strong support, which is the most traded sort of volume level around that sort of zone in there. So if price does breach to the downside here on euro dollar, I would be a little bit on the cautious side. I don't think I'd be quick to try and get short, because we're at this volume zone. And the only way I would be looking to get short is if price kind of breached that area, right? And then it kind of held in this zone and then kind of retested it. If we fail to kind of make new highs on the lower time frames, I'd be concerned about being long, and I'd expect maybe price to go and trade to the other side of value, which is down towards that sort of 1.0650. I think what's potentially more likely here at the moment, again, I'm saying potentially because the dollar is fairly strong, if we kind of hold here and pull back a little bit. Obviously, there was a lot of chop going on in this area as well. So again, when we get that kind of consolidation, there's lots of volume being built up around that point. So I think that we could see a move up back towards these kind of areas here if we were to hold. And I think that is a big if, to be honest. I don't particularly like euro longs, to be honest. So that's why I'm saying it's a big if. I don't really see the benefit of being long euro dollar at the moment. But obviously, these markets don't go in straight lines. They can kind of fill areas, and you can see a big level of sort of low volume up towards this sort of 108.16. So maybe a pullback into that area could be something to consider. But at the moment, nothing really here for me. I think I'm going to see how price reacts. If we get some kind of rejection, then, you know, I'll sit on my hands a little bit. If we breach into value, then I'll be kind of thinking, you know, is euro dollar going to trade lower? Alphan, I can see your message. Sorry, euro is at support. I like EJ longs, especially if it comes back to 158.50. Okay, let's take a look at euro yen then. Again, I've got yen just kind of being a slightly stronger currency at the moment. So I'll take that into consideration in my analysis. But I can see prices working within sort of this bullish channel here. Obviously, recently we came up into sort of our target area when we were looking at longs on euro yen, which is 161.50. Since then, we've kind of traded lower. We breached 160 previous highs. We came back into kind of prior lows then around about that 158 sort of 20 areas. Since then, we've rallied, but we haven't really kind of made any progression above 160 at the moment. We're kind of holding just around that area there. Let me just have a flick up to the weekly chart. I mean, the weekly looks quite bullish in terms of price action, because you've got sort of price remaining within that strong bullish candlestick. Last week, we closed back above the previous week's low. So if anything, that does potentially suggest that maybe later in the week, we could make another move back up to the upside here. I'll just be a little bit cautious, because obviously yen strength, although it can be a little bit sort of, let's say, fleeting at the moment. We get quite a bit of yen strength, and then it can just kind of fade for a while, and then we get sort of a little bit of that weakness coming back into the market. But I can see what you're looking at here. I mean, from the eagle-eyed people, you may be able to see that, you know, is that sort of a large scale head and shoulders pattern around about that 159.50 level. So, you know, if we breach 160s again, that would really open the door up and move back up towards that sort of 160, 150 handle for me. But we shall see. You know, we could obviously continue to push back down towards this 58 handle, depending on how euro reacts to this level. I mean, whenever we look at sort of euro yen in the past, you know, we obviously have to take into consideration the major currency pairs. So euro dollar, we know, is at a support point, right? I haven't looked at where dollar yen is at the moment, but if dollar yen was also at support, then yeah, I would be saying maybe euro yen has a good chance to kind of continue and push higher. Let me just flick over to dollar yen quickly. Let's have a quick look where dollar yen is. I haven't actually looked. So yeah, we're kind of at resistance, aren't we? But that's not looking particularly bearish, is it? I mean, breach above 148.35. High is around 148.80 I've got on this particular chart. I wouldn't say that's necessarily bearish here, to be honest. Only because if we look at the 4 hour, we're kind of accumulating, aren't we? So if we do get some kind of breach of this accumulation to the upside, then, you know, it could obviously spark some fresh buying into dollar yen, which would obviously help your idea of potentially looking at euro yen long. CG, hello. Good afternoon to you as well. Thank you for joining the stream. But yeah, dollar yen at an interesting level at the moment. Obviously, I've got yen on the strength meter as being a stronger currency. But like I said, it's a bit of fleeting sort of strength in the market. We're not really seeing it necessarily being sustained for too long. You know, we had that yen strength sort of last week, and that faded pretty quickly. So, you know, the yen kind of strength I saw from the currency strength meter was maybe a little bit sort of, how can I put it? A little bit sort of, I wouldn't say fake, but not as sort of trusting, I'd say maybe. But yeah, some of the markets that I like then. So dollar CAD, there's a potential I like dollar CAD long opportunities. One currency pair I really like is dollar Swiss. Obviously, we spoke about dollar Swiss previously. We've been pretty much looking for long since we breached this 8600 area in here, around about this level. And now we're starting to see the sort of move coming from dollar Swiss. I think this was a nice market to have a little look at. I like the idea of price targeting the 0 spot 88 handle. If we breach that, there's some good opportunities, I think, to see moves higher. But yeah, now we're in that kind of bullish phase. You know, how do we try and potentially get on the back of something here? And for me, it's just like we've got to highlight those kind of volume levels. We've got to look at where the market is kind of finding support. Where is it finding those lows? It's then kind of identifying those lows and seeing if price can kind of retest them, give us any kind of ideas. So on the 4 hour time frame at the moment, I've marked up a couple of different areas. The first area is obviously trend support. Trend support is formed when price makes a new high. That previous high can act as support. The secondary support is obviously lows. Okay, so if price comes deeper and it comes back into prior lows, it can obviously find support here as well. You know, just for example here, the market kind of broke these highs, found support. Market broke into those highs, found support. Okay, and I love when the market kind of gives us a very short term sort of pullback. Okay, we always talk about waiting for that sort of accumulation to kind of form, right? When the market kind of rallies, pulls back a little bit, but the pullbacks are very sort of shallow and then rallies again. This area here is something to look out for, especially the lows. If the market is in an upward trend, it shouldn't be making lower lows and lower highs. Okay, it should not do that. It should be wanting to sort of sustain an area and then go and fetch other highs, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. And that's the situation I think we've got here. I think if dollar Swiss can continue to form daily bullish closes, I'll be looking for ideas if price can kind of move back into these areas here, if that makes sense. So I'm actually going to just set a couple of alerts. 87.10, I'm going to set an alert at. And if price obviously comes into that level, great. I can look for some potential opportunities. If it breaks through, it breaches, it moves lower, then I've got that secondary level. If price breaches these lows and we get successful closes below that, I think our idea is invalidated at that point, and we need to kind of maybe go back to the drawing board and seeing what's going on underlying, to kind of maybe even fundamentally that's driving prices lower at that point. But I don't see this dollar strength at the moment fading too much. If it does fade, I think it's going to be very short term. And yeah, I mean, the fact that we've got bond yields rallying, the fact that we've got the sort of Federal Reserve chairman talking about not cutting rates yet, really would say to me that there is an opportunity for the dollar to get stronger in the short term. And if we go take a look at stocks are interesting to me at the moment. I thought stocks would have a pretty bad time with the Fed talking about not cutting interest rates. Obviously, some of our levels have been sort of looking at sort of pullbacks into larger areas of opportunities. But, you know, I'm looking at this kind of 4 hour here, and I was looking at potentially seeing how the sort of stock market opened on the American Open, because I like the idea of price kind of forming support there. Again, price is failing to make new lows. That has to say something to us. You know, why is price failing to make new lows at this point? And I think it's because there's a good idea that the market is going to continue to rally higher. Now, the last time we kind of spoke about the S&P 500 was actually down towards this level in here. We were looking at sort of how the market would react if it kind of breached this sort of area, and yeah, ended up rallying quite aggressively to the upside. Same with the Dow, actually. I think the last time we spoke about the Dow Jones, we liked the idea of long opportunities, and I was looking at this area in particular here, this 4 hour area of consolidation, and I said, if price closes above this area here, I think longs are quite likely. And, you know, we had a very, very strong, aggressive move. You know, longs here coming out at these highs would have been a good idea. And yeah, but looking at it now, we've got kind of similar price action. The market is almost kind of found a bottom down through here. We've rallied a little bit. Again, market's not really making considerable new lows. And, you know, I think if we close above this high again, there could be opportunities for price to go and seek these highs, for instance. So I do still like the idea of being bullish on stock markets, despite sort of the Fed really not really looking at sort of cutting interest rates just yet. The data is pretty good. It's showing growth. And I think there's a possibility that stocks could, you know, continue to get stronger. Irfan, sorry, difficult to get on board with dollar CFD now. I'm looking at opportunity on gold. If it comes up to 240, there might be a selling opportunity back to 2005. Let's have a little look at gold. Gold's interesting to me as well. I put a little post out on gold the other day. We're kind of range bounds, you know, between that sort of $2,060 area down towards this 210 area. I said maybe there's an idea of looking at longs around about this 210 area. Again, very short term though. That was to me thinking that play the range essentially. I'm looking at sort of price bounce between these two areas. Is there an idea of seeing gold kind of push a little bit higher? Now, like I said, I'm fairly bullish dollar at the moment. So seeing price kind of again move higher a little bit, I think could offer opportunities. I think you're right. 2040 looks good to me as well, because it's got these previous 4 hour highs in there. So I quite like the idea of that. 2040 for ideas down to that 2005 handle again kind of looks good to me, which were these sort of lows that formed back in January. Again, I think it's just good to watch your hourly time frame as well, because like I said before, if price fails to make new highs, so again, look at the highs. Okay, if price fails to make new highs, what's that telling us? It's telling us that buyers are not really interested in sort of pushing price out of these kind of areas. So I would be very interested to see how the market reacts. If we get closes above, then yeah, move up to 2040 looks great. Again, is price going to fail at that high then, and does it then continue to push lower? I think that's a good sort of plan to make out on gold, especially if we look at it in terms of volume. So you're going to have high volumes up here, very, very low volume in this area. So this area is going to be resistance for price. If price comes up to it, tests it, rejects it, fails to breach into low volume areas, then yeah, I like that plan. I like that plan a lot, to be honest. I'm actually going to set an alert there myself and see if price can reach that point and continue. But yeah, like I said, you can try and keep an eye on sort of your sort of highs here. If your highs fail to get higher and we start to see rejections, then that could also be a good point to look at ideas for gold shorts. Vincent, I'm sure Aussie US dollar from 65.12, stop loss 65.28. Okay, let's go take a look at Aussie US dollar as well. I do have an alert set at 65.12 as well, and that's exactly where you're looking to get short. You're looking to get short, well, you have got short, sorry, from 65.12. Let's just open this up a little bit. 65.12. 7, stop level 65 to 8, 3. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Again, think of it, low volume, price making highs, you've got short from the highs. So yeah, I don't see a problem with that at all. Like I said, the only thing that's going to put pressure on this a little bit is the fact that the US dollar has been on a bit of a rampage and it's hit that 104.50 level. If we breach 104.50, yeah, I think Aussie US dollar's moving lower. You know, it's very similar to the situation we had up here at 0 spot sort of 66 area where we were looking to get short before. You know, price kept hitting that level, but it it kept failing, it couldn't push any higher. That's the kind of situation I want to see developed here. So I actually have an alert here. I'm not short this market, but I have got an alert here. If price pull back into that, I'd be looking for opportunities as well. The only thing I'd say, I'd be looking for targets down here, 64.60. If you get that sort of target in here, I'll be looking to close one position, leave the other open, just in case it does breach that support, because under 64.50 is low volume down to 63 kind of 90s, 63 80s. So that's the one thing I'd say you've got on your side if it does breach lower there. But yeah, I don't mind that one, Vincent. I like that. So yeah, let's go take a look at Swiss yen, because Swiss yen is not particularly a market I trade all that often. But it could be one to watch for potential short ideas. So Swiss yen, I can see obviously prices been in a range. I think we've obviously talked about Swiss yen recently. We've talked about it being in a range. So range between sort of 174. Let's change this range a little bit. Let's kind of make it into those half numbers. So 171.50 highs, and you've got kind of 169. I'll kind of push that to 169.75. Let's see how that looks. Sort of in there. So yeah, you know my feelings around ranges at the end of the day. I like ranges. I think they're really good opportunities to trade in the market because you've got real defined areas that you can look at. So to me, if I wanted to be short Swiss yen at the moment, I wouldn't really want to get short right now because we're coming into support. Okay. Not really bothered by that. If price was back up at the highs, great, because we can have a stop loss above the highs here. We've got plenty of risk reward ratio to play with, so we can exit positions here, or kind of bank half your position to see if price will run further. If I was to get short now, my entry here, stop here, your risk reward ratio is just gone. It's just, there's no point in getting short here. I think at the moment, I want to see how price reacts. If it's on my list to get short, great, but I want to still get short in an area which is smart. I want to get short in an area where risk is controlled. I don't just want to get short. So ultimately, two things need to happen. I need to see the bias of getting short confirmed with a breakout of the range. That can obviously lead to a pullback continuation move. Or I need to see price reject, come all the way back into the highs, which could then obviously give us an opportunity to trade the range, essentially, that's forming here at the moment. So there's the kind of two ways I'll go about Swiss yen. I mean, this is a daily chart as well, so this could easily be, you know, an opportunity to see yen weakness come back into the market. You know, I don't particularly like the Swiss strength because we're starting to see the reversal form on the currency strength meter. But like I said before, these markets don't move in straight lines. They pull back. They go into areas of liquidity. They go into areas where buyers and sellers have been active in the past. So if I was a seller here, where would I take profits? I'd be taking profits right now. I'd be taking profits at those lows. I'd secure that position in there. If price came back up here and I was buying, where would I want to get out? I'd want to get out at this point, which then could obviously influence further selling pressure. Okay, the market is only going to break out of this area if it doesn't feel like this area is fair value anymore. Okay, if that doesn't seek fair value, buyers not interested, sellers take over and it breaches that zone, then we've got an idea maybe a trend is going to start to break out at this point. But I always say to myself, what is the market condition as well? You know, if the strength meter is telling me to look at Swiss yen, yeah, that's absolutely great. I'll go take a look at Swiss yen, but I still need the right conditions to be met. You know, I need to understand what the conditions are in. Is it a trend or is it a range? Okay, and then depending on the conditions of that, you know, what do I look at next? Like support resistance levels, volume levels, you know, things like that to kind of give me an idea of where the market could try and, you know, find selling pressure again or find buying pressure again. So that's why we've got to try and look at this. Conditions are a range. So if my bias is a little bit more to the short side, I only want to be looking at opportunities back at 171, sort of 50. So I'll set an alert there, see if I can get any kind of pullback to that point. I'll watch it on a daily basis. If it breaches, great. I think if it does breach, there could be opportunity to see price all the way back down to 164, because you can see I've got this kind of bullish channel in there, which you can see has been respected quite a lot. So, you know, maybe there's something there for us to have a little look at, and that's quite a nice sort of setup in terms of you've got good opportunity there, because that would be what, like a 500 pip move. So plenty of sort of price action to look at for opportunities at that point. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of at the moment with the markets. Let's go check out a couple of other ones then. So thinking about potentially Aussie yen to the short side, obviously again in a bit of a range between 97.80 and down to sort of the 96 handle. The only thing I quite like about this essentially is the highs are kind of getting a little bit lower there, but I mean, that's not really great, is it? I don't really see kind of aggressive entry short there at the moment, to be honest. Yeah, I'll probably stay away from that one. What was the other one? CAD yen. CAD yen. Obviously, we got short CAD yen last week into these lows. Again, very good idea to take profit at the range lows. We are back at the range highs on CAD yen. That's, I suppose, the only difference between CAD yen and most other markets with regards to the yen is we're back at range highs and we've had a daily bearish close. Let's have a little look here. Now we are kind of at a support point, that 109.75. I can see that acted as support in the past. We kind of come back to that point. We're acting as support again. So maybe what we need to see here is price sort of drive through that level, complete that sort of pattern, and then maybe look at the highs there for an opportunity. Potentially on CAD yen, 109 up to, what is that would be? Just under 110s, wouldn't it? About 109.90s, I reckon that. Yeah, 109.87 up to sort of 109.90s. But obviously, we can see prices has found support here recently. Let's go to an hourly. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, again, look. Support. Resistance. Why would I be short there? There's no reason to be short there. Yeah, I would potentially wait for a move to see if price will try and break 110, 109.95. If it fails and we get a rejection, maybe that's the point to go and look at opportunities. Or if we breach to the downside here, retest, continue. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. The only thing I can probably draw on the fact is CAD has got employment data coming up this week, and it's forecast to come in a little bit higher. We do obviously have a Bank of Canada speech coming up a little bit later as well, so maybe staying away from CAD's a good idea right now, and then we'll see how that's affected and see if there's any kind of opportunity after the fact. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Like I said, kind of building off the strength meter. I've got CAD as a stronger currency, but in an area of potential reversal. Swiss we've got coming down, yen we've got up a little bit. You know, maybe an Aussie CAD short, maybe. Don't think I've looked at Aussie CAD for a very long time. Let's have a look. Yeah, I don't think I've looked at this for a while. Again, I think, you know, if I was to be short, is there any value in being short there? Right at support? No. Idea of being short would come in a little bit higher up at that area there. How can I get that strength meter? The only way you can see it on a regular basis is by joining the Blueberry Markets VIP trading room. So the way you can do that is obviously if you're a Blueberry Markets client and you've got a live account with $200 deposited, you get access to the VIP trading room. Now the VIP trading room is an area where we've got loads of analysts giving opportunities in the markets in terms of what they think is going to happen. So, for instance, if you come down to my updates here, you'll see some in-depth updates as well as where I post sort of YouTube videos and stuff. But every week I post the currency strength meter here with a little bit of just what's going on, what to kind of look for. So if you go back, again, you can see last week's is here as well. Give a little bit of a description. And then just some thoughts on some currency pairs. So this was obviously CAD yen, what we talked about previously. Looking for shorts in there. That worked out pretty well, down to the sort of 105 handle. So yeah, but you've got other things as well within this area as well. Obviously, you've got Warren's insights as well. Warren is really sort of knowledgeable about the markets, has been in the markets for a very, very long time, has some really good thoughts and analysis, especially on the indexes, like FTSE and Hang Seng and whatnot. So yeah, you've got loads of sort of opportunities there, but that's where you can see the currency strength meter on a regular basis. If you go to my updates page, just come in here, hit the currency strength meter. You'll be able to see that on a regular basis. Morning, right guy. Hope you're doing well, mate. So yeah, if you want more information about that, just leave a message on the on one of the socials, or leave a message on under the video, and I can give you a link on how you can kind of do that. Let me just pop that over here. Let's have a flick over to cable. Sorry, last week we were obviously talking about cable, and we were talking about cable breaching the sort of area of consolidation, and then, you know, coming perhaps down to 125. Well, that played out quite nicely. I didn't manage to sort of trade this position. Obviously, it was sort of going into sort of NFP day, and we had some data out in the morning. Obviously, we saw quite an aggressive move to the downside at NFP, and that continued because NFP was a pretty big miss in the markets. Again, something we talked about, you know, and this is why I don't necessarily trade NFP, but trade the almost after the reaction, especially if it's been quite a sort of aggressive move. But yeah, cable sinking lower at the moment. Are we going to breach 125 is the question. I don't think we necessarily will. It was maybe a little bit of shock in the fact that the Bank of England, one of the members, was talking about potentially cutting rates, while the others were talking about holding and even potentially hiking rates, considering the inflation in the UK. But yeah, again, look at that. Daily lows coming in, prices come into that support. If you are short here, you're going to be looking to at least take some off the table at this point, which can obviously cause a little bit of buying to come back into the market. Let's have a quick look at this hourly. Yeah, I can see, look, if we're looking at in terms of volume as well, we're breaching this area here. The next sort of area of volume is up towards this 126 area. So we could see cable just kind of make its way up into that 126, especially if we grab the fixed range tool, low volume above this area here. So the market could move quite quickly into another area of volume, which is this area here, up towards that 126 handle, up to the highs around 126.40. So that could be an area to look out for as well. Right, guy, looking to short cable at 126.40 or 126.20. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I just said there in terms of that zone there would be pretty important for price. So it'd be interesting to see now can price rally to that point. Intraday traders, you might be looking at that thinking that is something that I like the look of. If we look at this 5-minute chart here, you know, we're breaching above the VWAP as well. And, you know, when we do that, there can be an opportunity for a bit of a run. You can see flat VWAP there. We break that to the downside. We see aggressive selling coming in. Again, flat VWAP. We break that out. That was obviously news driven, but the market has obviously rallied, fell from that. So you can see these little tests. Again, if the market is going to start to rally here, we shouldn't see it make new lower lows in terms of closes below the lows. Okay, so I would be monitoring these lows in here. If you get pullbacks into them, then there could be some short-term opportunities to see a bit of a rally here on cable, because from an intraday point of view, you've got what, sort of 40 pips to work with there. That could be quite useful in a sort of short-term point of view. Did like the idea of euro. Obviously, we're not necessarily getting short here, but the fact that we're kind of double bottoming here, or, you know, we're at daily support, there could be an idea of price moving back to the upside. From an intraday point of view, again, you know, if I look at the VWAP, a breach sort of above that, above this sort of high that's been made for today, could see a little bit more movement to the upside. Got sort of large volumes. I'd just be interested to see, could price make it all the way back up towards this low volume area, which was obviously after NFP. you know, are we going to go and test that area up there? So if we do start to see a bit of a breakout higher, I think that could be a good level to go and sort of target up towards that 108.20 for euro, especially because we're back at that sort of support level on the daily. So yeah, that'd be fairly interesting to me. Right then, guys, we've been going for about 45 minutes. That's how long I usually like to sort of run these little sessions. So I am going to leave it there. We've talked about quite a lot today, especially that US dollar sort of influence in the market at the minute. Talked about the strength meter as well. Again, you can find that in the trading room if you so wish to do so. Just going to give a few shout outs to people that have sent messages. So Abina, thank you. Irfan, thank you. Vincent, Akintunde, appreciate that. CG, thank you very much as well. We've got 𝖥𝖣yi, thank you very much for your input as well. And thank you, Rai, guys. So I'm going to catch you guys later. Thank you for everybody that joined the stream. I appreciate the comments and things like that. Ekal, thank you as well. And yeah, if you enjoyed the stream, please leave it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. And if you are new and you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And I will catch you in the next one, which is on Thursday, same time. So I will speak to you all then. Cheers. Have a good week.